In our previous videos on Rivet City, we helped the city council decide upon a new member, we resolved things between Polly, a druggie, and his long-suffering wife, and we met the worst mother in the wasteland. But there's much more to see on this rusting tub. While exploring the midship deck, we find a church. This is St. Monica's Church. Heading inside, we see that there's no service right now, but the pastor or priest is standing by the lectern. This is Father Clifford.
I am Father Clifford. This is St. Monica's Church.
Who is this St. Monica?
She is the patron saint of lost children. Very popular among the faithful of Rivet City. I'm surprised you've never heard of her. If you want to hear her story, it will be the topic of my sermon on Sunday. Services begin at 8 a.m. You should come.
You're a priest?
Yes, my flock is all of Rivet City. You should come to services this Sunday. I'll be telling the tale of St. Monica.
I'd like to make a donation to the church.
You would? I mean, certainly. We humbly accept whatever you can spare. However, St. Monica looks most favorably on donations of 100 caps or more.
Caps? Oh, I thought I could give you some of my junk.
A kind thought, but we don't need your cast-off belongings.
We can give him 10 caps for a little bit of karma.
Every cap is needed. God bless you.
50 caps for a good amount of karma.
A kind offering. God bless you.
Or 100 caps for a heaping dose of karma.
A most generous offer. God bless you.
In this way, we could buy our way from very evil karma to very good karma for 2,000 caps. It's by far the easiest way to raise our karma. Turning around, we see that while we were talking, a young man named Diego sat down behind us.
I'm Diego, the acolyte for St. Monica's.
Who is this St. Monica?
St. Monica saved her own son's soul from eternal damnation. She is now the patron saint of lost children for the faithful everywhere. You really should come to church on Sunday mornings. The sermon will be all about St. Monica.
There's a church in Rivet City?
Oh yes, Father Clifford conducts services every Sunday morning. You should come.
If you're the acolyte, who's the priest?
Father Clifford. The sanctuary is in the ship's fore on the upper deck. The good father holds services every Sunday morning.
I'd like to make a donation to the church.
Father Clifford takes the donations. You'll have to talk to him.
So, looks like we can hear a church sermon if we wait until Sunday morning. Exploring the little chapel here, we can go up on stage, and behind the podium, we see a Bible, an empty flask of whiskey, and some Med-X. Looks like Father Clifford needs a little bit of inspiration before each sermon. On the bottom level, we find another holotape, but we'll save this for an upcoming quest. Turning around, we find a teddy bear and a book on a table, as well as a locked donations box. Coming back at another time when no one's here, if we pick it, we find one pre-war dollar. Wow, these poor guys, not exactly rolling in the dough. At the very back of the chapel, we find a door to the rectory. This is Diego and Father Clifford's home. When no one's looking, we can pick the door and explore. There's not much here. We find a few footlockers on the ground. We lose karma by picking them. I found just over 50 bottle caps in one and just over a handful in the other. These guys live modestly, if the church donations say anything. Now, both of them mentioned a sermon, so waiting until Sunday morning, we watch as all of the residents of Rivet City slowly trickle in. This is an infuriating experience, because as soon as these guys get close to each other, they begin to talk with some of the pre-programmed Rivet City citizen banter.
There was some sort of battle in the city yesterday.
People like you are bad
the
for
gate guard
business.
said the gunfire
Just
went
time
on
you
for
better
over an
follow
hour.
the rules.
Father Clifford,
That's why I'm glad I'm in quick fix. Good old Rivet City.
Did you hear about the fight
Me
in the
too.
Muddy Rudder last night?
Nothing is getting through these
Yeah,
walls.
Belle's gonna have to
Hello,
replace
CJ.
some tables and
I heard
chairs.
that the city council
I'm
is
sure she'll
debating
just
putting
scrounge some
railings
from the
on
lower
flight
deck.
Welcome
Well, I
to
hope they do
Potomac
something.
Attire.
They talk over each other and over Father Clifford. So even when Clifford starts his sermon, we can't listen to it because his entire congregation is chatting amongst themselves. So I'm going to have to do some editing tricks here. In short, during the course of his sermon, most people pay attention with the exceptions of Bannon and Cindy. Halfway through the sermon, Bannon gets bored and walks off.
I'm sure they'll do
Bannon.
something
I'm
about
out of
Wait
here.
for me.
And remember, in yesterday's video, we learned that Cindy has a crush on Bannon, even though she's married to Polly. And when Bannon stands up to walk out, Cindy is the only one to follow him. But the rest of the congregation stays for the remainder of the sermon. And at the very end, they all leave at once out that tiny door. Now, because they were constantly talking over each other and Father Clifford, I had to extract the audio files of his sermon from the game. I overlaid them during the parts where the congregation talked over Father Clifford. So we'll get the whole story, but it's going to sound a little weird. But without further ado, here is Father Clifford's full sermon, the story of Saint Monica.
Today we hear the story of Saint Monica. She was born in Great Lanta, on the shores of the ocean. Her parents were both ghouls.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, that's right.
ghouls.
I said
That
ghouls.
she was conceived
That
at
she was
all
conceived
was a
at all was a miracle.
That she was born
That she was born unafflicted was an even greater miracle. God tested Saint Monica. She did not lead an easy life. Sold into slavery by raiders, she was forced to sell her body. They took her only son, Aaron, from her and sold him. She prayed every night to God for his safety. She did not pray for herself, although her burden was great. Each night, she would preach the word of God to the slavers. After 16 years, God provided a miracle. One of the slavers repented his wicked ways and helped her to escape. 4 years she looked for Aaron. 4 years she wandered the wasteland. God looked over her in those years. When she found her son, she found he was a wicked man. Aaron had overthrown his masters and taken their place. He was an owner of men. Aaron took his mother to be his slave, even knowing who she was, for Aaron blamed her for his painful early life. Each day, Aaron would think of a new and wicked trial to put her through. She would only smile at him and say, "I forgive you." Each morning, she would be miraculously healed, as if nothing had happened. When Aaron truly realized her love and God's love was boundless, he flung himself at her feet and begged for Saint Monica's forgiveness. Aaron released all of his slaves, and they rejoiced. He repented all his wicked ways. Who among us is without sin? Who among us can claim to be innocent? Come, brothers and sisters, let us pray to God and Saint Monica for deliverance from our sins, as Aaron was delivered from his. Amen. Let us pray.
Turning around, you can see that Vera is already talking with some of the other residents, but most of them were respectful for the entire sermon. The sermon, however, raises some lore issues. If the story is accurate, Monica was born from 2 ghouls. If true, that means that ghouls, just like other humans, can conceive. Now, this was seen as a miracle, so maybe ghouls can't conceive, but because this was a miracle, they did. However, Clifford also said that Monica not inheriting ghoulism from her parents was also a miracle. It could only be a miracle if children from ghoul couples typically produced ghoul children. And if that were the case, then it would not be a miracle for them to conceive at all. In fact, that would be quite common. Ghoul parents commonly produce ghoul children. It's a miracle that they produced a non-ghoul child. So do we believe this story? I don't think so. I think Father Clifford has taken some artistic license with the story to talk up Saint Monica. Now, Diego, we remember that name. That's right, Vera Weatherly told us some gossip saying that young Angela was in love with Diego, but that Diego didn't return her affection. Well, we're not one to believe gossip, so let's go talk with Angela to see how she really feels. We met Angela in yesterday's episode. She's the daughter of Gary Staley, the chef at Gary's Galley. She's 16 years old and works for her dad as a waitress. We find her in the marketplace.
Welcome to Gary's Galley. Can I take your order?
Do the men on this ship give you much trouble?
You mean like hitting on me? No. Most of them are polite. Even the ones like Diego that I'd want to flirt with seem to ignore me.
So you and Diego are in love?
Well, one of us is. Sometimes it seems like he doesn't even know I'm there.
Unfortunately, you can't force a man's attentions.
Especially if he is a priest with a thick skull. Well, I'm not giving up. I just know we're made for each other.
Men are such pigs. Forget him.
You're right, I should, but I can't.
You're a woman. Just seduce him.
Yeah, right. I don't think I could get him drunk enough to do that. I wish I had some ant pheromones. Trini says they would make any man lose control.
Ant pheromones? Alright, that's one way to go about it. But wouldn't using ant pheromones kind of be like drugging him? Slipping him a bit of a Mickey? Is this really ethical? We can go around the city to talk with many of the characters we've already met, some of whom will have something to say about Angela and Diego, including Vera Weatherly. I heard Angela Staley has a crush on Diego.
Oh, yes. She's crazy about him. He keeps telling her no, but he also spends a lot of time with her. It's really not fair to her.
Disgusting, isn't it? Someone should talk to that boy. He has no business hanging around that tramp if he's going to be a priest.
And Angela's father, Gary. I heard your daughter has a crush on Diego.
Yeah, I know. Thank God he's a priest. At least I know nothing's going on between them. Father Clifford would kick him out of the priesthood if he ever found out.
Ooh, sounds like Gary doesn't approve of Angela's choice. Well, we've talked with the whole ship. Let's find out what Diego has to say about this. Heading into the chapel, we find an option to say, I hear Angela Staley has a crush on you.
What are you talking about? I'm a man of the cloth. Well, I will be as soon as Father Clifford. Never mind. It doesn't matter what Angela thinks. Soon I will take vows of chastity.
Okay, I believe you. I was just curious about it.
I forgive you. More importantly, God forgives you.
You're a fool to pass up a chance at love with Angela.
Father Clifford says she is my trial, my temptation. I must choose between her and the church. I have chosen the church.
If we leave it at that, we continue to have all options available to us, but if we choose the next option and say, if you don't stop seeing her, I'll tell Father Clifford about it.
I swear to you, our relationship is chaste. I am only her friend. However, I must confess, I have not done all I could. I am sorely tempted. You have given me new resolve. I will tell Angela we cannot see each other again, even as friends.
Then Diego cuts off all contact with Angela. As far as he's concerned, that settles it. This removes all dialogue options about the love affair between Diego and Angela from everyone in the city, including Angela. But even if we choose this option, there are still ways to get them together. If we head on over and talk with Father Clifford, we find an option to lie and say, I heard that Diego and Angela are sleeping together.
What? If that's true, I'll defrock him. Not only is he fornicating, but he's doing it with such an innocent young girl.
At this point, we can come clean and say, it's just a rumor. I'd ask Diego about it first.
Of course, you're right. It's not like you saw it with your own eyes. I'm sure it's just gossip. Sorry I overreacted. So many of my hopes for the church lie in Diego that it would be devastating to have him leave.
We learned that Father Clifford is likely planning to leave the church to Diego, counting on Diego to pastor this flock after he's gone. If Diego leaves the fold, it's likely that St. Monica's church will die with Father Clifford. By choosing the last option, Father Clifford allows Diego to stay in the church, but we do find other ways to get them together. Alternatively, if we choose the other option and lie again by saying, I saw them myself on the flight deck, under the stars.
Ah, Diego! What have you done? He has forced my hand. I cannot let him be a priest now. This may be the end of the faith if I cannot find another acolyte.
And with that, Father Clifford removes Diego from his position as acolyte. The next time we talk with Diego, we can ask him, how are things between you and Angela?
Father Clifford accused me of having relations with Angela. He wouldn't listen when I told him it was a lie. I am no longer an acolyte. I've been expelled. Sometimes when God shuts one door, though, he opens another. I've asked Angela to marry me, and she said yes.
And with that, they become engaged. Heading back to the marketplace to talk with Angela, we can ask her, so how are things with Diego lately?
Someone told Father Clifford that Diego and I were, Father Clifford expelled Diego. So, now we can get married.
And with that, we unite the young couple. But there is another way to go about this. If we head to Cindy Cantelli, the proprietor of A Quick Fix, she has some thoughts on the budding romance.
The poor dear. I wish there was something I could do to help her. That boy ought to just give her a tumble. It would be good for both of them.
And if we examine her inventory, we find that she's selling Ant Queen pheromones. This just so happens to be the exact ingredient that Angela said she needed to break down Diego's willpower. Now, we don't have to buy the ones on her inventory if at any time in our travels through the wasteland we've killed an Ant Queen. For example, if we killed the Ant Queen at the Corvega factory, which I explored in another video that you can watch here, we can use those ant pheromones as well. However we get the ant pheromones, when ready, we can hand them over to Angela. We find an option to say, I have some Ant Queen pheromones that might do the trick.
Really? Oh, thank you. I just know I can seduce Diego with this. Then he'll have to marry me. We'll be so happy.
All right, something's bothering me about this. Poor Diego. I mean, yeah, if it were me, I'd much prefer a married life with a loving family and children as opposed to a life of celibacy within the church. So by getting Diego to break his vow, I think we're causing him to have a happier lifestyle. But what are we doing here? We're using chemicals to alter the brain function and willpower of this poor acolyte so that he can't control himself around Angela. The two of them knock boots, forcing him to leave the priesthood out of shame or honor. How is that any different than, say, getting him drunk to likewise compromise his decision-making, making him easier to seduce? Even though if we were to succeed at this, we gain a huge boost of karma, I don't know if this is really right. Is anyone else as weirded out by this as I am? At any rate, now that Angela has the Ant Queen pheromones, she can wait until after work to head out and seduce Diego. Now we're given a hint as to where we can find them in the lie that we can tell to Father Clifford. In that lie, we can tell him that we found them knocking boots under the starlight on the flight deck. We get the distinct impression that the flight deck is where young people go to engage in romantic trysts. So heading to the flight deck, we can wait until night. If we do, sure enough, as night falls, we see Diego leave the bridge tower and sit down on a bench. After a while, Angela meets him here. The moon comes out from behind the clouds. Angela steps close to the man, making sure the pheromones pour over him, and begins her seduction.
Angela, I'm not sure you should spend so much time around me. I am to be married to God soon.
Wouldn't you rather be with a real girl? Maybe you should try it before you decide.
Lord, give me strength.
I have something special for you, but I can only give it to you in private.
We're not alone, so it'll have to wait. Maybe later today.
Diego, do you think I'm sexy? I mean, if you weren't a priest and everything, would you be turned on by me?
We're not alone, so it'll have to wait. Maybe later today.
And with that, Diego is seduced. The rest of their encounter must be left to the imagination. The next morning, when we ask around town, we find that rumor of Angela and Diego's activities last night has already spread around the ship. Checking in with Vera, we find an option to say, how are things between Diego and Angela these days?
Haven't you heard? They're going to get married. It's so wonderful. We haven't had a wedding in years.
A wedding? Already? Well, when are Angela and Diego getting married?
At 3 o'clock. Tomorrow. I can hardly wait. I'm so happy for Angela.
She's so happy for Angela, but she's not saying anything about Diego. Well, I sure hope this is something Diego wants. Heading to the marketplace, we can talk with Angela's father. Is Angela still mooning over Diego?
Mooning over him? Not anymore. She's gonna marry him. I am so happy for my little girl.
And it looks like Gary has gotten over his dislike of Diego. As long as his daughter is happy, he's happy. Heading to the church, we can ask Father Clifford what he thinks. Is what I heard about Diego true?
You mean that he's left the priesthood? Yes. They are going to get married. Well, at least I get to perform the ceremony.
And it seems that Father Clifford is handling his disappointment rather well. I looked and couldn't find Diego or Angela anywhere, but Vera did say that the wedding was going to be at 3 p.m. So waiting until 3 p.m. the next day, sure enough, the entire town shows up for the ceremony, and Father Clifford presides over the wedding.
We are gathered here today to witness the union of Diego and Angela in holy matrimony. They have asked that their marriage be blessed by God and by Saint Monica. They have also asked that it be witnessed by their friends and family. Diego, will you take Angela for your lawful wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward? For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part?
I do.
Angela, will you take Diego for your lawful wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward? For better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do you part?
I do.
I now pronounce you man and wife. What God has joined, let no man tear asunder.
I love you, Diego.
I love you too, Angela.
With that, Angela and Diego race out of the chapel to head to their new home. Their new married home is the first room to the left down the hallway to the northwest. Before they got married, this used to be a simple supply closet with shopping carts and other trash strewn about. This is what it looked like. But now that they're married, this is their family bedroom. They've got furniture, a big double bed. They are official. Checking in with Angela, we can see how married life is treating her. So, you and Diego are still in love?
It's true. I'm so happy. Diego is a wonderful man.
Well, at least she is happy. Now we gotta find Diego to see how he feels. So Diego, you and Angela are married now.
Oh yes, I had to give up being a priest, but it was worth it.
Well, good. At least he's happy with the arrangement. And by now he should have been off whatever effect the ant pheromones gave him, so we can be assured that his enthusiasm here is genuine. There's no happier time than when you're at a wedding, and we can chat with the happy residents as they leave the chapel. In doing so, we meet a woman that we haven't visited with yet. This is Mei Wang.
Stay away from me. What do you want? Are you one of them?
One of them? We can respond a number of ways. We can lie and say, yes, I'm one of them, and I have been for years.
No. Don't take me back. I would rather die than be a slave for that awful Alistair Tenpenny.
So she's a runaway slave, and she was a slave of none other than Alistair Tenpenny. I suddenly feel bad for leaving the man alive. Or we can say, lady, you're nuts.
I'm sorry. I'm just so on edge all the time.
I'm not gonna hurt you. What are you scared of?
I suppose it doesn't matter if I tell you. I used to be a slave. I saw a slaver on this ship. His name is Sister. I'm afraid he's after me.
So Sister is a slaver. No wonder he stood out. And this explains why he was so belligerent when we talked with him, and why he's staying in a hotel room. He's not a member of this community. The Fallout 3 official strategy guide tells us that he's a slaver from Paradise Falls, and if Mei Wang here is a runaway slave, he is likely here to retrieve her. So, you're an escaped slave. Now I understand.
No! Please don't tell Sister. I think he's a slaver. I don't want to be taken by him.
Hey, it's none of my business. Let the past be the past.
That's easy to say. You don't have anyone from your past after you. I just feel so helpless.
Don't worry. I would never turn in a runaway slave.
Really? Oh, thank you. Can you help me? I've been so worried with him around. I can hardly sleep at night.
You're on your own. I'm not getting involved.
I suppose it was wrong of me to ask you for help. I won't talk to you about this again.
All right, let me think about it.
I am at your mercy.
Before we make our decision, we might as well talk with Sister. Maybe she's wrong, maybe he's not a former slaver. Heading into the Weatherly Hotel, we find Sister right where we left him.
You're bothering me. You don't want to bother me.
Did you know that Mei Wang is a runaway slave?
No. Interesting. Never look a gift slave in the mouth, I say.
With that, we lose karma. Sister stands up and begins walking towards Mei Wang. Mei Wang sleeps in the common room, along with many of the other residents who don't have a dedicated home. We follow Sister down the hallways of the upper deck and into the stairwell. He then goes down one floor to the midship deck. We follow him through the midship deck until he stops right before the common room. And that's it. He doesn't go inside. He never confronts Mei Wang, and after a while he just turns around and walks back. We find no further dialogue with Sister, but at this point we can go back to Mei Wang and tell her what we've done.
Well, are you going to help me or turn me over to the slaver?
You're a runaway. I had to tell Sister about you.
Oh my God! What am I going to do now? How could you? Get away from me!
With that, we lose even more karma and she runs down the hallway. If we follow her, she goes to the stairwell, takes it all the way up to the top floor to enter the bridge tower, then takes the right door out to the flight deck. Here she runs along the flight deck for a bit before stopping and heading back inside. From here on out, we can no longer talk with her. If we try to, she just says, "Stay away from me." But if we wait 24 hours, the next time we try to find Mei Wang in the common room, we find her corpse lying on the ground near to her bed. What exactly happened here? Did Sister kill her? After all, he clearly knew where she was. He walked straight to the common room and stopped, possibly not wanting to murder her in front of so many witnesses. But then again, why would he come all the way from Paradise Falls just to murder her? As a slaver, you don't put that much effort into murder. You only put that kind of effort into something that pays off in the long run. Like if he were to retrieve her and take her back to Paradise Falls. No, this has to be a suicide. Mei was so frightened that Sister was going to find her that she killed herself before he could. But this only happens if we side against Mei. To side with her, we can say, "Here's 25 caps. Maybe you can buy yourself a gun."
Thank you. I'll go to Flak and Shrapnel's just before closing. I don't have anything to give you, but I think I can trust you with a secret. If you ever go up north, there is a secret slave hideout called Temple of the Union. You might find them useful.
With that, we gain karma, and we get the location of the Temple of the Union added to our Pip-Boy map. Mei has all the money she needs to buy a gun from Flak and Shrapnel, and the gun makes her sleep easier at night. She's no longer scared of Sister giving her no reason to commit suicide. While we're in the common room talking with Mei Wang, we see many of the other residents who don't have their own rooms, including a man named Mr. Lopez. While we're here, Mei Wang takes him aside to offer him her help.
Mr. Lopez, would you like to talk? They say talking helps with problems.
Thank you, but no. I talked to Father Clifford, but it doesn't seem to help me.
Well, what exactly was that about? In the morning, Mr. Lopez leaves the common room. If we follow him, we see that he leaves the main level deck and enters the staircase. He's traveling up. We can try to talk to him.
Haven't run into you before. You probably wouldn't remember me anyway. I'm Mr. Lopez.
Why wouldn't I remember you?
Nobody does. I'm not very memorable. Don't worry. It won't be a problem for much longer.
Uh-huh. Uh-oh. If we follow him, he climbs to the top of the stairwell and enters the bridge tower. Then he ascends the bridge tower floor by floor until he reaches the 4th floor and goes out the only door here to the flight deck. This puts us out to a platform at the very top of the bridge tower, overlooking the flight deck and the entire city. We see that Mr. Lopez is standing before a break in the protective railing right at the edge.
Don't mind me. I'm just taking up space here.
Talking to him quickly before he does something rash.
I wish I had the courage to end it all.
We have three options. We can be supportive of his suicidal plan and say, if that's what you really want, I'll help you.
Thank you. A quick shove should do it.
Okay, we were facing the wrong direction. We immediately lose karma and he instantly dies, but the way this is supposed to work is he gets shot out over the ledge, but since he was facing me, he just sort of tumbled to the ground here. Alright, so trying this again, we can approach him from the right direction so that his back is facing the city, say the same thing. And he gets flung over the side and dies. I jumped down to see if I could find his body. For some reason, I couldn't find it anywhere in this water. The next option is to be cruel to Mr. Lopez and say, you couldn't save your family. You can't kill yourself. You're pathetic.
You're right. I've failed everyone, even my family. Someday, maybe I'll...
We again lose karma, and this time he correctly kills himself. It's strange that we have this option to say what we said to him, because there's no way the lone wanderer could have known that he couldn't save his family. This option refers to Lopez's biography that we find in the Fallout 3 official strategy guide. In the guide, it tells us that Mr. Lopez's family was killed by raiders. He came here to Rivet City after they died, and he blames himself for their deaths. We learn that every day he climbs the tower and stands here on the ledge contemplating suicide. At last we understand why Mei Wang was offering to help Mr. Lopez. We also learn from the strategy guide that Mr. Lopez frequently counsels with Father Clifford. In fact, if we go to the church, we can talk with Father Clifford and say, I think Mr. Lopez is suicidal.
Yes, I know. I've been counseling him for some time now. He used to go stand on the observation balcony all afternoon. He's down to only an hour or so at 3 o'clock.
Now, there is a way to kill Mr. Lopez without gaining negative karma. Instead of throwing him off through dialogue or taunting him until he jumps himself, we can scooch up next to him and just slowly nudge him off. And he will dutifully fall to his death. And since we didn't attack him or engage him in dialogue, it's officially not our fault, and we don't lose karma. Or, if we don't want to make any of those choices, we can say, real courage is living. Only cowards commit suicide.
You may be right, but I have nothing to live for.
Suicide is a sin. Kill yourself, and your soul won't go to heaven.
That's what Father Clifford says. I'm not sure I believe that. I'll think about it. I'll just stay here, alone.
If we choose this option, we get a note saying Mr. Lopez is contemplating suicide. I can't decide if I should help him or get him help. There is no help we can get him. Even talking with Father Clifford doesn't open up any other options. If we choose this option, he continues to stand on this ledge day after day. To talk him down, we have to pass a speech check to say, what about Ted? He needs guidance. He needs a father figure.
Ted Strayer. I suppose I could talk to him. He is kind of a lost boy. Thank you, stranger.
With that, we gain karma, and we quite literally talk Lopez down from the ledge. Now, we only find this option if Ted Strayer is still alive in our game. We met Ted when I did my video, You Gotta Shoot Him in the Head, which you can watch here. Ted was one of the men Mr. Crowley wanted us to assassinate. However, we could have resolved that quest peacefully, and if we left Ted alive, we find this option with Mr. Lopez. Ted is a bit of a lost boy, as we learned when we talked with him in that video.
Ted Strayer, you can chill with me if you want, dude.
You seem pretty relaxed.
No point in getting all worked up. I get 3 squares, I got a place to crash, and nothing's trying to eat me.
Do you actually do anything in Rivet City?
You mean, like fix stuff? Nah. I just hang out, dude. I've got enough chems to last a while. Oh, yeah.
Sounds like a plan, man. Let's chill.
All right, you and me just hanging.
I know your type. You're a freeloader and a waste of breath.
Whoa, dude, you don't have to get all in my face. I'll just make myself scarce.
Yeah, Ted is certainly in need of a little fatherly guidance. And Lopez is perfect for it. Ted and Lopez both sleep and live in the common room, and their cots are right next to each other. If we come at night just before bedtime, they tend to spend a lot of time together. And after talking Lopez down, every now and then we'll overhear him trying to give Ted some fatherly advice.
Ted,
Don't mind
you're
me.
wasting your life. Do something with it. If you don't, you'll turn out just like me.
Dude, I will definitely not let that happen. I'll get right on that life thing, though. Maybe after my nap.
I'm just taking things one day at a time.
And with that, we have met almost everyone and solved almost every side or unmarked quest here at Rivet City. But we walk away with a big question. Why didn't Sister go after Mei Wang? And then we realize that Sister didn't know that Mei was an escaped slave. When we asked him if he knew, he said that no, he didn't.
No. Interesting.
Which means that he couldn't be here for Mei Wang. So then, why is he here? Perhaps the answer lies on the holotape in his room. We'll have to find out whom Sister is really after in tomorrow's episode. I publish many new videos each and every week here on my channel, so if you want to make sure you don't miss my next episode, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I have a brand new shirt in the shop, folks. At least I've got my Thump Thump. Subtitle, Thump Thump. Never leave home without it. Celebrate the greatness of everyone's favorite grenade rifle with this wonderful design that comes in a variety of both men's and women's sizes and in a wide array of colors. The design will soon be available on a bunch of other items as well, smartphone cases, mugs, pillows, posters, prints, etc. But it takes me a few days after releasing a new design to get it on non-shirt items. So hang tight, and if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early with a brand new episode.
One of the new immigrants died of radiation poisoning last week. Yeah, I heard she was drinking river water. The ship's water isn't much better. If we don't get fresh water soon, we'll all end up like her. Everything looks okay here.